Plan B. Plan B.
We are back here on the BIA College Football Podcast. That's Philly Phil. I'm Hugie. Ohio State in a big win against Western Kentucky this past Saturday. Uh, Phil, not a big surprise, I would say, but I would say a big surprise based on the way we were playing in the previous two games. But how are you feeling? Heading into week 4.
Listen, as an Ohio State fan, it felt good to watch a game and be able to, in the second half, just relax and just enjoy it. And yes, last week was the first week I enjoyed watching our team. And so that was exciting. And then this week I'm excited. Week 4 is a big week just as a college football fan with a lot of big matchups. So I'm excited to watch our game this week. Also excited to watch a lot of other games around the country this week.
Yes, and we will get to that game. That game being the Buckeyes head into South Bend to take on Notre Dame. But first, of course, we're going to look at the week that was with us basically topping the Hilltoppers in a big way, only allowing 10 points and giving up 10 points. We had about 3 turnovers, I believe. No, actually 4 turnovers. We had 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, 1 for a pick six, one fumble in the end zone. So, what are your general takeaways from our win against Western Kentucky?
I would say that the defense, I think, played well at all 3 levels. I think we saw some better line play, some solid linebacker play, and our DBs play really well as well. So, all of them in different parts of the game, all of them sort of took a lead and were the cause of some of those turnovers you're talking about. We got turnovers caused by defensive backs coming up and hitting players at the line of scrimmage with Denzel Burke. We've got also looking at interceptions that are obviously we had an almost interception by Josh Proctor that was really caused by pressure in the backfield by JT, someone we criticized. Someone actually you criticized. Let me be clear. You criticized him last week. So just seeing that, how those 3 levels of our defense complement each other and seeing that pay off in a strong win was exciting to see and stands out for me watching that game.
Yeah, JT, Jack Sawyer, they got a lot of quarterback hurries. I don't believe they recorded any sacks, but I will say that I was very pleased at that. The one thing I do remember seeing here recently, as far as just kind of going back and looking at the game, some of the highlights, JT he wasn't on the line. He was playing a little bit back near where the linebackers were on a play, back in coverage, and he went up to hit a receiver that caught the ball, and I'm thinking, and the receiver basically went for another 5-6 yards, and I'm like, man, as big as that guy is, I just need him to wrap up. And Mike Hall actually came up and basically made the tackle. Mike Hall has 0 broken tackles against WKU. The one thing I would say, the big takeaway, I think the score is, it's not that the score is deceiving, but I texted you during the game and I was like, oh, man, this head coach for WKU is playing Madden right now, because in that first half, they kept on going forward on 4th down. It didn't matter where they were on the field, and we definitely took advantage of that. I will say they got a few 4th down conversions, but I love the fact that our defense was able to get some reps on some 4th downs, because that's definitely going to be something that I believe we're going to need down the road, and maybe sooner, coming up here in this Notre Dame game. So really love to see that, and it's just making me hopeful that our defense is better than last year. I would say executing at a higher level than last year. So, yeah. So offense, go ahead.
So I was going to just say, in terms of 3rd downs, they were 3 for 16. on third down, which is obviously not good for them, good for us, and so that's something encouraging. Obviously, one sign of a strong defense is being able to get off the field. Now they obviously went for it on fourth down 6 times, as you mentioned, so that's not common, and that's more pressure. But I think looking forward, we can say it's great that our defense was able to stop them. 13 out of 16 times on third down. That's something that should translate, and I'm looking for that defense to translate and kind of carry over into the next game.
Yeah, hopefully, Big Game Knowles will live up to his name Saturday.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so
Hopefully, he's big game Knowles and not big play Knowles. That's the goal.
yeah, yeah. So transitioning over to the offense, I mean, 63 points. Devin Brown had a touchdown pass later on in the game to Carnell Tate. Uh, McCord, I mean, one of the best offensive displays this week from even a national scene, but his best offensive game by far as a Buckeye. Um, any takeaways from the receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks, just the offense in general?
um, yeah, I mean, to me, the play that stands out when I think about the game is really just that Marvin Harrison streak where he just was like, you know what? I think I'm faster than every single person in this stadium, so I'm just gonna run like Forrest Gump. Just keep running and running and running, and then just looks up the ball's right there. So, I mean, a pass like that is obviously not some like amazing touch skilled pass by Common Cord, but it is kind of what we talked about, and a lot of people were talking about for Ohio State. People who were high on Ohio State coming into the season were saying, regardless of the quarterback, they have the weapons that should make any decent quarterback look great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this past Saturday was more example of that, where we just had our weapons showing what they can do, and it made Cal look great. There weren't I can't name several like amazing throws by Cal McCord, but that's okay. He did what he had to do, and when you see that kind of play by Marvin Harrison just being faster than everybody else, it kind of makes you excited to think about he can do that every game because he's going to be the fastest player on the field every game. And so, as long as Kyle can just hit that guy, throw it within a 10 yard radius, then that should be a touchdown. So, yeah, great play by McCord, and he just kind of did what he was asked to do, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that go route is the number one offensive play that stands out in my mind as well. The second week in a row where he has had a go route. I mean, I think that they probably game planned that going into the game. Like, hey, we're playing Youngstown State, we're playing Western Kentucky, we're running at least, we're running at least one go route to Marvin Harrison. To in my mind, I'm thinking that Heartline called that play and just said, I have no idea what the play was going to be called, but he just said, hey, throw it long to Marvin, he'll be open. Like I think that's what it was. It really caught me off guard because I don't remember last year there being a lot of go routes for Marvin Harrison. I feel like he had some definitely over the middle, so maybe some post routes inside, some post routes to the outside. But I don't remember a whole lot of like just him be burning defenders. He was able to get open. He does have that skill set, of course. That's something that's going to translate to the NFL. That's why he's going to be a high. That's why he is a high draft prospect. But the fact that he's added speed and strength on top of that, that's going to be something that I would am definitely looking forward to seeing, especially in this game coming up. Now, one of the players I do want to highlight is Travion Henderson, man. He was running it between the tackles on some carries. And I think that that was one of the critiques that he was getting was instead of bouncing it to the outside, running it between the tackles. And I got to give it up to our offensive linemen as well, being able to run block, and which is something again we're going to need as we progress in the season. But Travion had a great game. I was a little bit concerned that as the game waned on, that Dallin Hayden did not get into the game. Uh, so I don't know what the deal with that is. I mean, there's a lot of running backs in our room. There's a lot of carries to go around in a blowout game. I just kind of thought that they would that he was going to get in the game, but I guess not. So I don't know if you had anything on that as far as running back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really worried about it. I mean, he's shown that he's not in the top three rotation, so I don't feel necessary to worry about what our fourth string running back is doing. I mean, obviously last year we thought he was going to be a big part of the offense this season, but I think it's already clear that that's not going to happen unless there's an injury. So, unfortunately for him, he's on the back burner. But for me, he's no longer somebody I'm really thinking about. I did see something online about the speculation that he might be redshirting, that he might, essentially not be playing on purpose, or the coaches might not be playing him
Mm,
because they recognize that he does have a lot of potential for Ohio State, and it's better not to waste a year, quote unquote, of him kind of only getting garbage time as opposed and not playing. Just go ahead and wait for him to kind of be the star next year, assuming we're going to lose a few people in front of him, and he could then be a primary back. We don't have honestly a like really exciting prospects in terms of our draft classes and running back. So that could be the thing, but that's just obviously online speculation. We don't know for sure. We'll know, I guess, later in the season when he has to kind of be able to declare for that red shirt.
yeah. Well, I did not know that, but that's breaking news to me here on the BIA pod. So appreciate that, Phil. So as we close the basically door on week three, we're going to head over to week four. This is something that I'm sure the Buckeyes had circled on their calendar. Last year, the Buckeyes beat the Fighting Irish uh, with a score of 21
Ooh.
to 10. Obviously, we had our boy QB1 CJ Stroud. It was a highly contested game. If you listen to episode one uh, of our show, you'll hear that we went to that game, and we're not going to rehash that. But basically, it was a highly contested game. It was a matchup where Notre Dame's defense was basically dropping 8 or 9 players into coverage, and I didn't notice it when I was watching because I was paying more close attention to what CJ was going to do. We didn't run it, from what I remember, at near the beginning of the game as much as maybe we should have. So knowing that we're heading into this game, what challenge do you think uh, poses the Buckeyes here in this game against the Fighting Irish?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's going to. I guess the challenge I'm most concerned about is going to be quarterback play. And again, coming off a great game by McCord, um, I don't think he was asked to do too much, and I think there's just a taller ask in doing this in a tough road environment. Being able to, when you think about that game last year, um, you know, those drives in the third and fourth quarter, we needed those. We needed to either take time off the clock or try to get a score on the board, right? And so that's the kind of thing we haven't seen McCord have to do yet. We haven't seen him have to get this drive, right? He's had to get a drive so we can look good, so we can keep his job, but he hasn't had to score because we needed points right now to stay in a good place in the game. And he hasn't had to do that also in a tough road environment. No disrespect to, again, the amazing fans who support Indiana football. So that's my concern. Will those will the play we saw last week translate to to an environment and to plays when there's a lot of pressure on you because you actually are concerned about the other team being able to score if they get the ball back. The other challenges, I think I'm actually very confident in our defense and running game and stuff like that, but the quarterback play is something that we just don't know. And we'll have to see, and he'll have to see, himself what he's made of when he's in that environment.
That is a good challenge that we'll have. In my mind, I am thinking about two names um, on the Notre Dame offense: Sam Hartman and Audric Estime. I have no idea if I'm saying his first name correctly, but Estime is a beast. He is either leading, it's one or two. He's leading the country in yards after contact or broken tackles. He might be leading the country in both, but Estime is someone who you cannot arm tackle. You can't just body tackle. Like it's not a body tackle. That's not even something that exists. Like in terms of like not wrapping around and just running into the guy at full speed. No, he's gonna break that. I want to see the defensive linemen, especially in the interior, which I'm more confident in the interior than our ends right now. But I definitely want to see our ends, Jack Sawyer and JTT. Man, Kenyatta Jackson, he had a great play also in the game against Western Kentucky. I love to see that guy on the field for this game. And just all of those guys, all of the defensive linemen, all the rushmen playing a part in stopping that run game because their offensive line has been, doing fairly well this year. Notre Dame's is what I'm speaking to. Their competition hasn't necessarily been stout yet. I mean, Navy, Central Michigan, Tennessee State, HBCU, and NC State. NC State is the best.
NC State.
Yeah, they were the best defensive line they faced. Now, just a little bit of a note in that game. There was a long weather delay, and first play out the gate, Estimate runs, I'm going to say like an 80-yard touchdown from the first play. Like, bruh. And so I don't know how that affected NC State's defense. I mean, it shouldn't have. They should have. They had as much time to prepare during that delay as Notre Dame did. But so, I mean, just the fact that that defensive line is the best one they've gone against, and they won by, it was a multiple scorer game from what I remember, um, that they won by. So I'm looking as a chat for a challenge that our run defense will definitely be going up against one of the best running backs that they're going to face this season.
Well, Huge, I got good news and bad news for you. All right, which
All
one do
right,
you want first?
give me the bad news first.
Okay. I was looking back at the stats of that game, and I was looking at their quarterback play, and I was seeing Tyler Buckner, his stats. He had 177 yards, and then I remembered
Are you talking about last
watching
year?
him. Yeah, last year.
Discount, yeah.
Right, going back to the game from last year, Ohio State 21-10 over Notre Dame, and thinking about their quarterback then, who played this past Saturday for Alabama and South Florida, and it was maybe the worst quarterbacking I've ever seen. It literally looked like somebody was out there from like a flag football team, and they put him in a jersey. He was throwing like straight boop to the ground. I don't know what he was doing. So the bad news is, hey, we handled them last year. Their quarterback might be the worst quarterback at a major program in the country right now.
Wow.
But there's good news. All right. So you mentioned Estime. Not sure how to pronounce his first name either, but he's the op, so we don't care about that. Last year, he played in this game against Ohio State. He had 9 carries for 21 yards. That's 2.3 yards a carry. So obviously he could be better year to year, but we did face him last year. They had Chris Tyree as well, who had 28 total yards. So our run defense did play well last year against these running backs, and I think we're better this year than we were last year, especially on the inside of that D line, where we assume that these running backs will be running through. So that's the good news. We faced him, and we were able to stop him last year. Hopefully, we're able to do the same. But the bad news is, even if they didn't have a good quarterback this year, if they had just an average quarterback, he might be better than Tyler Buckner is, because he stunk up the place in South Florida last week.
Well, one of the questions that I've asked myself about that game last year compared to this year, if they had Sam Hartman last year, would the result be different? And based on our DB play and the secondary play last year, shout out BIA, as we are the BIA podcast, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say. I feel like Sam Hartman was obviously one of the top quarterbacks last year, kind of in the middle of the pack, I'd say. He did his thing. He put up numbers at Wake Forest, but did he win the big games? And I gotta say, no, he didn't. The one game that comes to mind is the Clemson game, where DJ Uyunglele outdueled him, and I want to say that game went into overtime. And so it's one of those things where now, and I will say Clemson's defense was pretty good last year too. So I mean, Sam Hartman's going against their defense. He's going up against pretty good defense. So in the big games, did he win the big game? And I don't think he did. I don't even remember what bowl they went to last year. Did he play? I have no idea. I'm pretty sure he did. But um, that's been the number one question on my mind this year with this game coming up is he going to be a world beater? Is he going to be someone that is going to make a difference in this game? And I think that is leaning toward, yeah, he is going to be a difference maker. He's going to definitely be able to make some plays. He's a it's so crazy to say this now in college football. It seems like he's been in college for the past 10 years. He's a veteran quarterback in college football. Um, but yeah, I think I think it's leaning toward, yes, he's going to make some plays. It's just that we have to limit the amount of plays that he does make.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah. But I know that you had a question. Yeah, I don't remember what it was right now on my mind, but
Okay, let me just go ahead and go into it then. So the question, another question that we saw floating on the app X this week was around what kind of game we're going to see in this Notre Dame matchup, and which one Ohio State might be suited for better. So that would be whether or not Ohio State is more likely to win in a shootout, or more likely to win in a rock fight. Shootout being high offensive back and forth, and a rock fight being really a defensive game, low scoring, um, thugging it out. So, Hugie, what do you think right now is more likely for this game, and which would be like better for Ohio State?
I mean, man, wow. Well, you say better for Ohio State. I mean, I think that it's going to be a rock fight. I think it's going to be similar to last year, um, where it's going to be a defensive game. And we're going to see whose defense from last year to this year has improved in terms of being able to stop the opposing offense for each team. I think that Ohio State wants to be in a shootout, though. I mean, I can't name you. I remember I did watch the Navy game at the beginning of the year. That the wide receiver that they were raving about. I don't remember his name. I don't remember his name. I don't know any other. We took one of their receivers from the transfer portal this past year and made him one of a defensive back. So congratulations on that. So I just yeah that to me. So I think that it's going to be a defensive game, but Ohio State wants it to be a shootout.
um, yeah, I think I know I don't want it to be a shootout, because I don't like the idea of it coming down to quarterback play. I don't like it coming down to which quarterback has the ball last, to have to drive 80 yards down the field. I don't want McCord in that position. Okay. I rather right now I trust our defense more to say this game comes down to getting another stop as opposed to getting another score. So I'm rooting for a rock fight. Not as fun to watch, but I just don't like the idea of putting it all on McCord and saying you got to go out there and get us, 3 touchdowns in this second half in order to win the game. Not feeling confident yet about that. I will say for Ryan Day, the criticism around him kind of being tight in big games in the past. I think that he, maybe even more so than our team, is somebody who kind of plays to the competition. And so I think you'll see and to the point around like whether or not Sam Hartman would have won that game. I think if Notre Dame was a more explosive offensive team, you would see Ohio State playing differently on offense as well. I think the same thing will happen in this game. I think Ryan Day will be prepared with game plans for whether or not to high scoring or low scoring. And I think if you see Notre Dame putting up points, you'll see a different game plan, different plays called for McCord. But I think he would probably prefer, as we've seen in those first two games, to not put McCord in situations that he's not 100% confident in him yet. And so I think he would prefer to be able to kind of ease him in and not have to have him coming out swinging.
Well, having said all of those things, now it's time for that score prediction. I'm gonna go ahead and tip my cap to you. What score prediction do you have here for
Okay.
our week 4 game?
I thought you were saying you were going to go ahead and give your prediction. That's fair, though. Okay, so I am going to go with Ohio State 31 and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish 24.
Ooh, that's a closer game. We are 3.5 point
Yeah.
favorites. I mean, last I checked yesterday, spread is
Mm-hmm.
at 3.5. My prediction: Ohio State 38, Notre Dame 21. I Yeah, I want this to be a statement. We need to start. I'm happy to see where we are in the rankings. I'm happy to see that we're not high on the hog, but I do believe we're coming off a big confidence building game, like from Western Kentucky going into week 4. And so I expect them to, the defense to stand up and show that they're one of the best defense. I hope that that Notre Dame doesn't even score 21 points, but we will see. It's going to be, they have a tough offense to defend. So, yeah. So, we're going to take a break very quickly. And then when we come back, we're going to give you our surprises from week 3 from this past week, from the national scene. That is coming up next. We are back here on the BIA podcast. We're going to take a look at some of the surprises that we saw, we heard from week 3. Uh, I can go first on this. I was, as you can see, I'm in a different location from the backdrop that I normally have. I'm on the road here down in Texas. I happen to be in Houston. Went to a sports bar to watch the game. My wife and I went to a sports bar to watch the game, and it was during the window of our game, so the midday. Looking around at the scores, I noticed I noticed that it was a really surprising score. Alabama against University of South Florida. Now, I noticed that there was like a two camera thing going on. They literally were only using two cameras at one point after there was a lightning delay because I guess the for safety, cameraman safety, camera person safety, and I gotta say, it shouldn't be shocking that they only won. Was the score 17-3, or was it 17?
Yeah, they scored that. They scored that last touchdown at the very end, but yeah, it was 17-3.
And for the longest time, it was 10-3.
Correct.
Yeah, I gotta say, man. I mean, I know that Tyler Buckner isn't um, is just a guy at quarterback. Depending on who you have as weapons, man, I know that those wide receivers are pissed. But yeah, that was the most surprising thing was seeing Alabama come off a loss against Texas and basically it seemed like they were nearly going to lay an egg. It's just like in one of those things where if you're somebody rooting against Alabama and the the dynasty that is or that was, you are like, oh, if USF can just get a pick six, if they can just get a scoop and score, if they can get something like to make this into a game, and that's what it seemed like the whole time that I'm watching this thing, So that was the biggest surprise to me in week 3 was Alabama's performance, not the quarterbacks. I'm not surprised that they had bad quarterback play. It's performance all around for the team from the team.
Well, yeah, we don't share our answers prior to recording, and I'm salty that he went first. He's been trying to make me go first for every single thing else, but this segment he wanted to go first, knowing I wanted to talk about Bama, because them boys quit. in that game. They were not there to play, and that was definitely a surprise for a Nick Saban team. But I will go into the vault and find um, another surprising thing. I guess I'll have to go with the other, quote unquote juggernaut in the SEC, and that's Georgia. I did bet money on South Carolina covering the spread, but I didn't expect them to be up at the half at Georgia. So, I am less concerned about Georgia moving forward because it didn't seem the same way as like them quitting or not really being motivated to be out there. Look more like kind of sleepwalking through a team you believe you're supposed to win against, which is I think is different than what you saw at South Florida, where I think you saw people just not caring as much, not being invested. And so there's still a surprise though to see Georgia losing at half. Again, we mentioned last week sort of wanting to see Georgia tested this season. It certainly looks like a team that didn't have some of the glaring weaknesses like South Carolina does with their offensive line could have maybe made that game interesting all the way into, to the end. Whereas South Carolina was not able to kind of be able to put drives together at the end of that game. But yeah, I would say just the overall surprise would be teams around the country who we thought were sort of untouchable, at least in week 3, playing against lesser opponents. That would include Florida State as well, really being tested. And some of them looking like they might lose those games, but, kind of winning in the end based purely off of talent, but not putting up performances that they could win against a team that had, more of a pulse.
Hot take.
Uh-oh.
I know this wasn't planned.
Or sanctioned. I do not co-sign whatever you're about to say.
Okay. Well, Georgia's not looking like the number 1 team in the country. They're not. I was literally thinking like, man, who has been looking like the number 1? If you're just going off the eye test,
don't say it.
Oh, I'm not saying them.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying.
We didn't even gotta say who it is. Okay, making sure. No. All right, we good.
USC is looking like the number 1 team in the country right now. I know that they haven't played South Carolina. They played Stanford and some other, smaller teams. USC has an argument as far as the eye test is concerned. Now, as far as that team up north, as far as the number 2 team in the country, I should have put quotes around that. Last year, they were blowing out these guys. They were blowing out their easy cupcake schedule. This year, they're not doing that. And I remember they did Cade McNamara, JJ McCarthy, and then I think they split some reps in the 3rd game. I don't know what's going on, but I saw I think it was Mr. Ohio on Twitter say they look human. It was during the game. It was the night game they had. Great light display. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
But they're not looking especially JJ throwing downfield.
JJ threw multiple interceptions against Bowling Green. Bowling Green, y'all. So yeah, they look more than human. They look pretty mid. But again, there is the tendency for teams to play down, to not be motivated, or maybe they're just missing Harburger, free my coach. Maybe just the emotional toll of not having their leader with them is, we can't overestimate that.
Yeah. So here's JJ was in the Heisman conversation going into that week. Interesting, right? Coming out of the week, don't see him around. They play Rutgers this week. Rutgers has been looking kind of good, bro. I mean, I'm not saying that. I am not saying it's as we transition here into pick 6 for our best bets of the week. That's gonna be a game that I keep my eye on. I'm not touching it. I'm just saying that it's going to be interesting to see what happens up in Ann Arbor.
Stand on it, brother. No. You get to pick first in the pick 6. As a reminder, we get to draft our best bets, and so only one of us can choose it, and so we take turns kind of snake drafting our bets in three categories: a lock, meaning a team is going to win and cover; a toss up, meaning we're choosing a team to win, but in a game that had a 3 point spread or less, and then an upset where we pick a team to win as the underdog in a game that has at least a 7 point or more spread. And Hugie is up first, and yeah, sounds like he's ready for his upset, y'all. So let's kick it off, Hugie.
This
Let's
dude,
hear it.
man, he's taking away my shine right now because I just want to say I've gotten 2 upsets these past 2 weeks. I'm not saying that to gloat. I'm not saying that to floss. Listen to me. Listen to me clearly. Come and join me on this train, Phil, because there's upsets to be had in the SEC. Okay, for my upset, give me. Man, it's like a literally like I could literally pick one of these two, but
Pick one of them. Pick the one I'm not going to pick. I got one too. Just pick the one I'm not going to pick.
I don't know who you're gonna pick. Give me Ole Miss over Bama.
More on that game coming up. But yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Nice upset pick. I mean, I would like to see it. I just mentioned that I thought that team looked like they quit in that game, so makes sense for me. I'm going to go in the SEC as well for my upset, but I am going to choose a team from Alabama to win. Give me Auburn over Texas A&M. Recruiting champs, but can't do it on the field. Texas A&M. I think Auburn should win that game. They're a 7.5 point underdog right now, and they've been playing well. This is to be like kind of their first test, but I like them at least. I feel like those teams are, if nothing else, even in my mind, and so even teams, I love to pick one of those to make the upset.
Good pick. I was actually looking at that game. That was going to be my first choice. I chose my backup because of quarterback play at Bama. But it sounds like you got something up your sleeve on that one. So
got something
in,
up the sleeve.
in case I don't know if you're doing this or not. You filling in the sheet? Just want to make sure
Yeah.
you do me a favor on that. Thank you. I was going to say we probably should do like if you lose, you got to fill in the sheet, but
Anyway,
previous week.
Anyway, so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with my toss-up next. Now we don't have a lot of rules in this game. This has kind of been an unofficial rule, and that has been to stay away from the Buckeyes. Can't do it this week. I'm feeling too good. Give me the toss-up. Give me Ohio State. Right now as a 3-point favorite on Yahoo Sportsbook as of this time of recording. Give me Ohio State getting the win in South Bend. Let's go. I have confidence in my team, so I picked Ohio State. I don't know who Justin's picking, but as a fan, I have to pick my team. Who you got, Hugie?
Fair enough. Obviously, can't go against that. So I'm gonna head out to the Pac-12, and this is gonna be a really good game, I believe. Oregon State and Washington State. Oregon State is favored by -3, but I think that Washington State is a gritty. This is a gritty game, man. Both these teams are just some gritty teams. I'm taking Washington State to beat Oregon State. So
okay, yeah,
uh,
two teams that no one wants in their conference, but are playing really well this year. That's not shade. That's not shade. That's just reality,
man.
Nobody wants them. This is the nobody wants me bowl. But it should be good because these teams are both playing well. It's unfortunate that nobody wants them because they're having some of their best seasons they've had in a while.
And this is a shout out to Crimson Red the flag that flies
Mm.
basically at all of the college game day appearances, which they will be in South Bend this week. So if you're going to be watching College Game Day, look for Crimson Red, and I hope that's what they call the flag. I wonder if it's like old Crimson Red or whatever. I don't know, but shout out to them. So lock as our last pick. I'm leading off for our lock, and I am going to go with a team that I should have went with last week. Um, and I am making sure I look for it. I'm gonna just say who it. Yeah, here we go. So Maryland is facing Michigan State. Michigan State got waxed against Washington. Um, give me Maryland. Give me Baby Tua, aka Talia.
um,
Seven, and I've got it at -7.5. Do you see that? Yeah, -7.5. We can check it later.
yeah, I'll believe you on that. Sounds good. I like the hook on there.
Actually, no, I think it's
Um,
-3.5.
oh,
No,
okay, yeah,
it's 7.5. 7.5. 7.5.
Okay, so for me, as I alluded to earlier, um, despite my commentary earlier about Bama, I'm taking them as my lock, -7 against Ole Miss. Now, here's the thing: Ole Miss is sus. I watched them play that Tulane game because I had money on Tulane, and they didn't look that good. Tulane was in there battling with their backup quarterback and had a chance with minutes left in the fourth quarter to tie that game. And then, they had some questionable things happen. Then they had a turnover for a touchdown. So Ole Miss does not look that good. Bama looked terrible last week, but I've heard reports. My sources tell me they had a players only meeting on Sunday. They are going back to Milroe. They announced that already. That Milroe is going to be the starter. I think he'll be motivated to kind of say, y'all were tripping for taking me out and putting these boys in. We see the defense still showed up. The defense still was playing hard in that game, holding South Florida to 3, even though South Florida's quarterback could not throw as well. So either way, I like Bama to cover a 7-point spread in a comeback game. Nick will have them boys fired up, playing for their jobs. And I think Milroe will be sort of vindicated. I think he already was vindicated by the play last week of those quarterbacks. And I think he'll be excited to get back in there and show everybody why he deserves to be the starter.
Okay. Well, your sources tell you they had a players only meeting. My sources tell me that their offensive coordinator is still Tommy Reese. So we go
Wow.
see. We go see. So as we look ahead at week 4 for pick 6, my lock, Maryland -7.5 as they head up to Michigan State. My toss up, Washington State over Oregon State, and my upset, where it seems like Phil and I are going to fight on this. Person's going to have a point swing here. Ole Miss over Bama.
Yeah, give me as my lock Bama -7 against Ole Miss. My toss up, as the one true fan here, I'm choosing Ohio State over Notre Dame. And then my upset, I've got Auburn winning against Texas A&M. The way our points work, where a lock is -1 if you miss it, and an upset is +2 if you get it. This definitely is a huge point swing for the two of us, depending on who wins that game. It could be a 3-point swing. So we'll definitely both be locked in watching that one down in the SEC.
Yes, sir. So that is our episode here on the BIA podcast. We are all, as Buckeye fans, looking forward to this game against Notre Dame. Follow us on social media, on Instagram, YouTube. Leave a review, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to. Well, actually, we're only on two platforms, Spotify or Apple. So, but anyway, leave a review on those 2 platforms for us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Catherine. All right, that's our show. Phil, OH,
Ayo.